In animation, the Microsoft logo bursts into sparkling concentric squares. 6 stacks of colorful panels in various textures converge at a central hub, then fan in a circle. Microsoft Ability Summit.
Shipra Dwar.
In India, there's a stigma about mental health. 85% of those who need care don't get it. When I finally got help for my depression, it made me want to help others. I founded iWill to close the gap. Our online service matches people with qualified therapists. We knew using AI to help less severe issues like mild mental health concerns could free our therapists to focus on those with more complex needs. Using Azure AI, we created Geeta, the world's first controlled generative AI mental health chatbot in Hindi. With Azure AI, we get security, scalability, and the capacity to provide human-like conversations with expert information and empathic response styles. If Geeta detects a severe issue, it alerts an iWill therapist who intervenes with specialized care. Our clients are overwhelmingly positive, saying they feel safe expressing themselves. Azure AI Studio lets our team focus on personalization, controlled prompting, and fine-tuning context-specific data. Currently, Geeta serves about 3,500 people. It's proving to be a wonderful way for people in rural areas to access private, anytime, anywhere therapy. Microsoft helped us use AI in the right ways to support healthcare across India and beyond.
Jenny Leigh Fleury, Chief Accessibility Officer, and Jessica Rayfuse, Director, Accessibility Strategic Partnership.
The Ability Summit. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Jessica.
Still
Jessica. And Jenny, it's been a good day. It has been a good day. This is my 8th Ability Summit that I've worked on, but honestly, this is my 10th that I've attended.
Hold up.
I know. So you invited me to present 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
I was curious. We always talk about curiosity. I snuck into a couple rooms and listened in to what was happening, and I thought to myself at the time, we have got to share this with more people. This is such great content. Even if it's not perfect, we've got to get it out there and help others become more inclusive. Tell me about your first Ability Summit.
Well, that's funny. And I didn't know that.
Jenny's wearing a shirt that reads, "Empower every person."
Just internal employees.
That's right.
Which is where it began and where it was for the first few years. Oh my gosh, this is my 14th. And it's always the most humbling time, because I'm just watching all the conversations happening. But really the first one, we were in our conference center here. We had just formed the disability employee group a few years before, but none of the different groups had really spent any time with one another talking about, and I was listening and they were all having the same conversations, and we had about 20 people, which I thought, I mean, I'm easily excited, as you know, and I'm running up and down the corridor. He's now my husband, was there trying to calm me down, because I was just so excited to see people talking about the lived experience. It was magical, and it still is. I think some of those key things are exactly why we're here today.
And I remember that too, when you're just building your community, how important it is to find folks that are experiencing some of the same things that you are.
Yes.
But there's still a whole lot of work we have left to do, and that is really why we're here. There's a lot of documentation that we want to get out there.
Yep.
We've got those 4 playbooks, which are now posted. So please go find them, play with those resources. We have buildings, we have inclusive design, we have mental health, innovation, generative AI, and of course, events.
And you can see them all at aka.ms/accessibility tools resource. And I know that it's live because I've been getting tweets about it, which is fantastic, and folks saying that they're enjoying the details in there. And bluntly, we're sharing this so that you can not have to recreate the wheel, but pull up whatever we've learned, breathe that in and go for it.
So
A
let's
LinkedIn
hear what
post.
people are saying. All right, we've got Jeevan Reedy. He says he's excited for #Ability Summit 2024. Thank you to Jenny for hosting a wonderful session with Satya.
Oh, that was a great session. That really was. And this one, she says, leaning in just to make sure, it's Marisa. Oh, my goodness, who's such an incredible leader in the disability world. Thank you for bringing the heart of disability inclusion and accessibility at the Ability Summit. Great way to start the day. It benefits everyone. I just think that quote from Nelson Mandela that Layla spoke to is definitely resonating with people. It's such a brilliant quote.
Absolutely. So keep them coming. #Ability Summit. We want to hear more. And up next, we're going to explore the intersection of civil rights, racial and disability justice, and how technology shapes our identities, but also the society around us. So check it out.
In animation, a dozen concentric squares in various colors and textures fan out behind the words Ability Summit.
I'm Alexia Claiborne, Director of Inclusion and Accessibility for Microsoft Global Events team. And we have this moment today to celebrate how far we've come. One thing the Black African American community has shared very verbally is that their priority is disability inclusion. It has always been what you do for the most marginalized, you do for the least marginalized, because it's for everyone. I'm going to pass it over to my magnificent colleague, Abele Okoli from the Global Accessibility team at Microsoft, as we continue to have some powerhouse conversations on intersectionality in the Black African American community and how technology is helping to support a path forward.
Hi, I'm Abele Okoli. I'm on the accessibility team leading what we do in the space of intersectionality and mental health. I come to you, or we come to you, from the Treehouse on Microsoft's campus, which is a unique space to talk about a very important topic, disability intersectionality. And I have the pleasure of moderating a panel. And I'd like to introduce our panelists.
Hi, I'm Natasha Bell. I am a co-founder of 1687 Productions. I'm also the CEO and president of the Black Hospital Review.
Welcome, Natasha. Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Gray. I'm the CEO of the Carrie Gray Consulting Group, where our work is all about the intersections of racial and disability justice. I'm also the founder of the National Alliance of Melanin Disabled Advocates, where we unapologetically combine people of color with disabilities around racial and disability justice.
Welcome. And Deborah.
Hello, I'm Deborah Watts with the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation, co-founder and executive director, and then also just proud to be a legacy family member of Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And today we'll have a very candid conversation about opportunities and considerations for disability intersectionality and, of course, technology. I wanted to start with some grounding terminology. Carrie, I think I'll look to you. Can you start with providing us your definition of disability justice and disability rights?
When I think about disability rights, let me start there. I think about the legacy of Judy Heumann, the legacy of Ed Roberts, Kelly Buckland. Like, these are folks that have been instrumental in our community who ensured that education was integrated for people with disabilities, who ensured that we were able to live independently. Like, they have been fundamental when it comes to disability rights. When I think of disability justice, I think of the legacies of Harriet Tubman, a Black disabled woman. I think of the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer, I think of Amani Barberin today. Disability justice is a continuation of disability rights, but it intentionally names Black folks, women, those of us who are most marginalized. And it's an advocacy that has fought for bodily autonomy in a way that has been incredibly necessary. It has fought for freedom, quite literally, when it comes to our communities. So there's a relationship between disability rights and disability justice, but there needs to be more integration of disability justice within our larger movement.
Deborah, do you want to give us your definition?
It's about telling the real truth. seeking the real justice, making sure that people of color and communities of color have the same rights and privileges as anyone else. And if we use the American society as our measuring stick, then we have a long way to go, you know, from a racial perspective. So if we use that, then we do have some gaps. And so justice is closing those gaps and making sure that every, whether it's, you know, entity within America, the framework in America, has that avenue of truth and what I call justice and accountability.
Beautiful. Natasha, I'd love to get your thoughts on either. So I know you can touch on both.
You know, racial justice, for me, what the definition would be is just holding people accountable in whatever form that looks like. And I think that one of the ways we do that is just proximity, is that if we just get to know each other a little better, that we would be, it would move our hearts, because what we've seen traditionally is that we fight to change laws and nothing changes. So I think that for me, racial justice is just about bringing us all closer together so that we know each other and we change each other's hearts.
Okay, well, that takes me to storytelling. Can you share a little bit about the role of storytelling in your journeys in disability and racial justice work?
You know, I grew up seeing tons of stories about like Black people, women, and I felt always very confident about where I was going, who I was advocating for when it came to that narrative. But I didn't see a lot of stories about disability growing up. Most of the stories that I saw were very much connected to, you know, disabled people being sick in the hospital, raising funds, and like, you know, things that were important, but I didn't resonate with culturally or like in terms of an identity. And it had a big impact on whether I saw disability as positive or not, as something I could identify with or not. I think storytelling is something that we have to diversify. We have to do a whole lot more storytelling to be able to convince, I think about my younger self, what would have attracted me to not just identify as disabled, but speak up. You know, I would shy about accommodations. I would shy back about being left behind or whatever the case may be, because I didn't have the representation to know that you should speak out. You are worthy and deserving. And so I think it becomes so fundamental that we are telling significantly more stories that relate to people and that empower our communities to be better and to do better.
How do you, in your, you know, through your wisdom that you have now and your disability positive narratives, encourage others to be comfortable with enlightening others through their own storytelling?
Do it yourself. Show them that, yes, I had these problems. I've overcome them. I've empowered myself. And what I tell myself, I focus on the fact that I had that lesson, that challenge, that adversity, and it made me a better person. I think the best way to do that is to do it yourself.
I relate to that. Like, a lot of people who are getting to know me now in these last 10 years of me advocating, like, I'm a Black disabled woman. Like, all day, every day, I show up. I love to embody that. But it was years of me being in a place where I would not say that word. I would not associate. You know, I would in some ways try to pass if I could. Like, if people thought I just sprained my ankle, I'd be like, yeah, no, that's it. Like, I understand, because there have been literally too many stories of the consequence of being disabled. So there's real reasons of why folks have disassociated themselves when it comes to the disability narrative.
I'd love to get your perspective, just kind of stemming from what you guys shared here, your thoughts in terms of how you marry your lived experience, your advocacy work to really drive co-creation. So that's, you know, kind of share about your approach when you're working with organizations to really help them understand the value of co-creation and how you bring your whole self to that process.
a few years ago, we had to very adamantly adapt the disability justice principle of cross-movement solidarity. And for us, that became incredibly important because the issues that we were dealing with were so large. Like, you know, we talk about this a lot, but the year of 2020 being at the intersections, quite literally in our face, of racial justice and disability justice. You know, disability justice, the health equity side of everything that was happening in the pandemic. People needed to be safe. They needed to be protected. We had to re-examine a lot of what we were doing. And that very same year, the historic uprising of the Black Lives Matter movement, it was quite literally those intersections at a head. And as we were in the process of advocating for, you know, what policies, what programming, what initiatives needed to be happening, it was so much going on that it became incredibly important that our groups, our leaders, our communities were talking to each other. We're building together. We're understanding that both of these things are happening at the same time in significantly huge ways. And so our principles of intersectionality, our principles of cross-movement solidarity made it so that we could co-create our movement. So I think it is incredibly fundamental that we keep that process and those principles in this work going.
I'd love to get your perspectives on the role that technology can play in supporting disability, intersectionality, disability justice movements, racial justice movements. And so I'd like to kind of get your perspectives there.
There's so many examples of how technology can be used to help activism in both the intersectionality, the disability community. Number one being fundraising, the opportunity to create websites, fundraising mechanisms, carry the load of, if you have a small staff, how artificial intelligence, things like Copilot can really address staffing issues. It's just a number of things that are out there. I mean, so many I can't even count, so many ways I can't even count. One of the things that we've done is we have partnered with the Non-Tech Acceleration program at Microsoft, often called the NTA program, where they offer resources to just supplement a tech project you have in mind, to say, hey, okay, we think that makes sense. We'll fund this program. And so, and we'll also help you build it.
I get so excited when I think about where we are going, where we can go with the technological advancements that have been occurring. Like, I'm a prosthetic wearer. In my prosthetic limb, there's like a microprocessing device. And it learns to walk with you. Like, the more you walk on it, the more it understands your style, if you're going uphill, downhill, all these different things, right? I think about what technology can do for our quality of life, for the different devices that we use, what tech will do with our glasses at some point. I think of all of the ways in which it can recognize what's happening around society in a way that traditionally could be less accessible for people who are blind and low vision, like how it can help support folks who have different learning disabilities and being able to understand, like, you know, it can do so much. I get excited about developing. I get excited about what are we doing that is genuinely useful for folks.
In the diaspora, you know, we're talking about extending, you know, this, particularly with Microsoft being a global company, and making sure, and I know you're doing some wonderful things in those areas, but there are some gaps, you know, and then there are some opportunities too. And so when you have people sitting at the table that may have some different experiences or have different relationships or have been exposed to different things, I think embracing that fully, and also using think tanks of different people, you know, that are actually assessing and using the technology, you know, to make sure that it's lining up with what the expectations are.
Mm-hmm. In your respective lanes and in the work that you do, what would you like to see?
Funding. More. I've been a conduit in between resources, and for my particular lane, and this is 1687 Productions.
When I think about the future, all I see is Wakanda. I ain't gonna front. When I think about the existence of Black people in the future, technology at its intersections, I think about, technology being something that in a lot of ways could, if not eradicate, very much minimize some of the barriers that we see around physical access, around communication. Like it could do so much, right? And to me, that is my version of, a realistic Wakanda. I want to see our community out here thriving with the technology. And to your point, it has to be resourced adequately because we are behind.
And that's understanding your value proposition. And I think that's a responsibility of everyone that's sitting
Absolutely.
at the tables, understanding the value that you bring and making sure it's mutually beneficial. And I would say even negotiating that there's no, it's non-negotiable.
Right.
That everybody wins. And I think you're missing an opportunity if you don't fully access what's out there. And I think some corporations fear, what innovation or what other voices may lead them to or make them do but I think that is a strategic advantage. I think it certainly is something that needs to be more fully embraced. But I think a company that fully embraces it invests in the future, and that is inclusion of those technology individuals at Sand Technology and other places are like that, or making sure that the investment is made, and then just opening that door. And I think with the billions of dollars that is to be made out there, everybody can win. And I think it reduces some of the systemic things that have been happening in our country. I think it eliminates it, it eradicates some of it, because we are the early adopters, because we've had to. So when you do that and flip the script and say, oh, they weren't just, there are disparities, certainly. But this is a set of community members who are strategic partners who can help us reach goals way beyond what we've initially established. And I think if everybody agrees to that, I think there's nothing but promise and success in the future.
If you were to be talking directly to communities now, disability, Black and African American communities and others, what would be the message you would give to them about becoming a part of the informing bodies that determine how technology evolves to solve societal issues?
Myself with technology, seeing someone use artificial intelligence to write an email in a minute, and I'm like, holy smokes, what? I just saw you get on Copilot and you said, respond to this email, and it wrote the whole thing for you, and way better than I typically would do it. Those are the things that are gonna make me go, you know what? I gotta go take that Copilot class because there's no way I'm gonna miss out.
Thank you guys for being such an important part of this very important conversation. We've learned so much, and there's just so much to chew on. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much to all those who made this moment possible. It has been quite a journey. We want to continue to engage with you on the tools, on the resources, and the technology products that you heard about today. We have many opportunities to do so in a genuine, healthy, well-based engagement setup. And that is what we've all been working towards. And when Microsoft says that this is the community shoulder to shoulder, they're not just talking about it. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. Take theirs.
Hello. Such an important conversation. So thank you to our panelists. All four of those ladies were fantastic. I also want to mention that this is part of a bigger conversation, and so much gratitude for the folks that came in and helped us to prepare during their wellness weekend. It truly created a moment where we can stop and learn from each other. There's still so much to learn, and not just here in the US. Rylan Rogers had the chance to sit down with Special Advisor Sarah Minkara to learn how foreign policy is being shaped by disability inclusion and accessibility around the globe. So stay tuned, because right after that, Jenny welcomes 2 disabled leaders in the pursuit of economic equity for people with disabilities. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Rylan Rogers, the Disability Policy Advisor here at Microsoft. I'm delighted today to join in conversation with the U.S. Special Advisor on International Disability Rights, Sarah Minkara. Welcome.
Thank you, Rylan. It's so good to be here.
So it would be great to jump in and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and about your role as Special Advisor.
Yeah, so I lead the U.S. Government Foreign Policy on Disability with my team, and we focus on advancing the voices, the rights, the perspective, the value of persons with disability across the globe, the 1.3 billion individuals in this world with a disability. We do it through building capacity, providing technical assistance, promoting disability-inclusive democracy, focusing on disability in moments of crisis, disrupting the narrative around disability, bringing disability to the global forums like G7, C5+1, et cetera. So we really focus on bringing the disability voice and perspective into all spaces, all sectors from a point of value.
I love that idea of sort of the voice and the perspective. And at Microsoft, we view accessibility as a fundamental right. So I'm really curious about what can we learn from global efforts and what you're seeing to drive accessibility forward.
So from global efforts, there has been a lot of movements on promoting accessibility from both the government sector and the private sector. But I always take a step back and I always ask the question, what does accessibility mean first? Accessibility is not just its infrastructure, it's technological, it's communication, it's cultural, it's AI, it's climate action, it's accessibility into every single space. How do we bring that forward? Because a lot of times people focus on one aspect. Public transportation, which is still important, right? Infrastructure, which is so important. But we're moving towards a world of AI. We're moving towards a world where climate action and crisis is part of our lives. So how do we ensure that accessibility is seen from a broader lens? And how do we ensure that government and the private sector and civil society bring accessibility to the table, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because when we make a system and world accessible for persons with disability, it will benefit everyone. So how do we really hone in and drive that narrative more intentionally?
I love that. I also am a little bit, it's not a stalker, but a fan, and I follow your work and I follow your travels globally. And I'm curious about what you're hearing from other governments around the increasing demands from the disability community for travel to be accessible. You talked about public transportation, but I'm curious what you're hearing from governments about all aspects of travel.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we were just in France a couple weeks ago talking to them as they're getting ready for the Olympics and Paralympics, and they're going to have millions of visitors, including persons with disability. And they are working on making more of their infrastructure accessible because there's more work to be done on the public transportation side. But not only that, the security side, the how people, when they get from point A to point Z, they're able to really access every single segment of their travel. We were in Jamaica a few weeks ago as well, and we went there to talk about not only secure tourism, but secure and accessibility tourism. And the beautiful part is when you bring accessibility to tourism, it actually will impact the entire country and society because tourism hits every single segment within our society. And if you bring accessibility to the table, not only is it going to open up their market and bring more profit, and it's going to actually translate down to society. So how do we really ensure that when we're talking about tourism, secure tourism, accessibility is at the table? And that is something that every single country wants to enhance their tourism. Let's make sure accessibility is there.
That's really great. And I love this sort of frame of how can we learn from everyone, which really sort of leads me for advice, asking for advice. How can disabled citizens really engage in that and be part of the learning and be an active voice for shaping policy?
And I take this to my team and I, how we approach our work. Our work does lead the U.S. Government Foreign Policy on Disability, but it shouldn't just be our office. It should be every single bureau and office and embassy across the State Department, right? our vision is everyone should be taking forward disability in their own work. So creating more shared responsibility. And I always say to the team, what spaces we're not in where we should be in? What spaces disability has never been in? Why? We just came from the Munich Security Conference. That is a space where we definitely need disability at the table, because we cannot be talking about security issues where AI was a big theme there, and we don't bring disability accessibility to the table. So how do we always ask the question, where are we not? How do we get there? And it's not enough. I know people will say, just if you don't have a seat at the table, pull up a seat at the table. To be honest, sometimes we cannot even access the table as a disability community. So how do we work with our allies, break down those barriers, and bring up a seat to the table and share our authentic voice? And that's the really important part. We need to share our authentic perspective and voice.
So I think we both have something in common, and we're a fan of good trouble. Yes. So I appreciate that you really frequently call out the need to disrupt the narrative on disability. And we're hearing the word disrupt when we describe AI. Yes. So it would be really helpful to hear from you a little bit about the need for government regulations and what the industry can do to ensure that AI is accessible and front and center in those discussions. So that your example about Munich and where it needs to be at the table. What can we be doing there?
Yeah. You know, it does always your question connects to also the narrative point. And I've had many conversations with folks where I say, oh, we need to bring more disability accessibility to the AI sphere. And they're like, oh, Sara, how does that connect? And I appreciate they're asking that, right? I truly appreciate that. But we're starting from that lens. We're starting from that lens that we need to bring out that narrative that, one, AI needs to ensure that as we're building AI, it's accessible, because if it's not, it's going to further marginalize us. Number two, AI is based on data, which could be biased. We need to address that. But number three is we as a disability community can bring so much value to the AI sphere. Bring us, learn from us, benefit from our contributions.
We mentioned a little bit about some of the work you've done in some countries related to democracy.
Yes.
As you're well aware, 2024 is poised to be kind of a remarkable year in terms of political change, with the majority of the world's democracies holding elections. Yes. What work is happening and what work needs to be done to ensure disabled people can engage?
Yeah, totally. So for the past couple of years, the administration has really been focusing a lot on democracy, the Summit for Democracy 1 and 2. This upcoming March, Korea will be hosting some Summit for Democracy 3. Through this work, we've worked with IFES and Australia to launch a disability inclusive democracy cohort, bringing together civil society, private and government sector to talk about best practices, good practices, promising practices on disability inclusive democracy. Also, this is within the GLAD network, the Global Action on Disability. There's a working group that's being established on this issue. But then also beyond that, we've done some bilateral work on disability inclusive democracy, whether it's Nigeria, Malaysia, et cetera. But ultimately, taking a step back, we need to ensure people with disabilities' voices are heard across all aspects of our democratic process, being able to access voting booths, right? Going to be able to vote. That's number one. Being able to run for political office and being able to campaign and run, et cetera. Being able to have their voices heard across every single aspect. Voting is not the only thing, right? We need to expand beyond just, voting is important, but we need to also allow for persons with disability to participate across all aspects of our democracies.
I wanted to go back to disrupting the narrative.
Yes.
And one of the highlights of my year was getting to see you partner with our Chief Accessibility Officer, Jenny Lay-Fleury at APEC. And you were really talking about employment and talent.
Yes.
And really the critical value that disabled talent brings to global economies. Yeah. I wonder what you're seeing in terms of that unblock that can happen and the power there, and what we need to be doing and pushing harder on so we can get to places of equity. One of the things that I'm spending a lot of time working on is wage equity, and in the reality that in the United States and in Australia, people with disabilities can still be paid less than the minimum wage. And it's 2024, and that's not okay. So I wonder where you're thinking that sort of disruption in the narrative and how that applies to economies and talents and bringing the great perspectives of disabled people to the workplace?
I will say when we look at employment and barriers to employment for persons with disability, it's multi-layered. One is, how do we ensure that the entire process of employment, from being able to apply to making sure the applications are accessible, all the way to being hired, being able to provide reasonable accommodations, not looking at accommodations from a point of compliance, but from a point of let's break down barriers. So then people with disabilities can, be able to go up to rise up into leadership roles, right? Like, how do we actually journey map and see the different barriers when it comes to inclusive employment? It's not enough, you'll have countries say, oh, let's put quotas, right? And there we go. But quotas does not solve the issue because there's so many layers and barriers that we as a disability community can face. And that's why having companies like Microsoft being able to really take leadership role in terms of breaking down those barriers and disrupting the narrative when it comes to really how do you build a more accessible workspace. When people come to me and say, Sada, where do we start? How do we ensure that people with disabilities are even applying? Well, reach out to your disability community. Intentionally reach out to them. Talk to them. Say, we would want to make sure you're applying. Are there any barriers when you're applying? How do we ensure that we're making that process more inclusive and accessible? And when a person's hired, I will say to anyone that's hired, turn to that person and ask the question, what do you need to thrive in that working setting? That should just be a question to be asked to anyone. And how do we really bring those tools so that person can thrive?
We talked a little bit about that 2024, it's not going to be boring, but so no,
far from it.
No, we won't be bored. But would love to have your thoughts about sort of call to action. If you wanted to make a call to action about what's going to happen in the next few years, what can our audience take away from what you've learned and what you're driving towards?
First step, we need to keep on creating more spaces to have a difficult conversation of why we're left out, why is disability not prioritized in our spaces, why are we not thought of? Let's create spaces to have those difficult conversations. Number two is how do we create more shared responsibility so we're not just carrying that work forward, but we have more people carrying that work forward. And then how do we build capacity? I will say for anyone, if you want to take disability inclusion forward, look at spaces you're not in, go to those spaces. Who should be in the room that's not listening to the room? Sometimes we're talking to people that already agree with us. How do we bring people that need to hear those messages and carry that work forward with us? And how do we keep building capacity so people can be partners with us?
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time and giving us a glimpse into your work and the world's vision in terms of accessibility as a fundamental right. It's been a pleasure.
Oh my God, it's been so great. Thank you, Rylan.
Thanks.
Jenny's shirt reads, "Nothing about us without us."
Is a fundamental right, and we believe in the power of technology to help bridge the disability divide. But what about the gap in wages? For too long, disabled workers have been short-changed, sometimes earning mere cents on the hour. Today, we are joined by two experts, and I'm really excited they're here, Tanya and Eileen, to explore why sub-minimum wages for disabled workers belongs in the past. Tanya, Eileen, thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen, for flying up here. I'm so thrilled, and welcome to Microsoft.
Thanks, but I'm not going to be working at Microsoft. I work at UCLA down in LA, and I've been working there for 28 years.
Well, yes, you have. So UCLA, 28 years. And Tanya, what do you do?
Hi, my name is Tanya Harris. I work at Microsoft for 10 years and with Zenith companies with 9 years. And I work in the Willows Warehouse in Microsoft in Redmond in Washington. And I go to the offices, say hi to all my coworkers, and I start work at 10 o'clock a.m. ends at 2 p.m. So that's 3 days a week and 4 hours. And I clean all the crates. I put 2 zip ties in each crate and 1 slice of bubble wrap inside and stack it 20 stack high. So for the teams to come in and get all the clean ones out and bring it back out to the moves. And sometimes I go out and help with my coworkers, do nameplates, hand out nameplates and labels. And
And you're an utterly invaluable member of the MOVE team.
Yes.
Is that right? And Eileen, you've been at UCLA for 28 years.
My job is senior clerk.
Senior clerk. And what does that mean?
Data entry.
Uh-huh.
I type in and I also work on the files. And I also scan them.
Yep.
And make sure their names are correct. I work from 9 to 4. So that is 35 hours a week with paid $36 an hour versus sheltered workshops, which were $12 a month. I was not happy with that then, the way I'm happy with support employment now.
We need to talk about that because that's an incredible difference. 36 per hour versus $12 per month.
I wasn't happy with the $12 per month, but now I'm happy with the $36 an hour. So, shelter workshops thing the past. We have to stay online with supported employment.
Well, I think that's one of the quotes of the day. I couldn't agree more. But before we go there, there's a couple of things I learned about you, Eileen, watching a documentary that I know is coming up that you're featured in. How fast do you type?
I type 120 words a minute on a computer compared to in the past when they used to be 110 words on a typewriter.
When you go on vacation, how many people have to cover your work?
A couple of people have to cover my work, about at least 2 to 4 people, especially a vacation like this one.
So 2 to 4 people cover your work while you're out?
Yes. And when I get back, I thank them for covering for me.
And I'm sure you have a lot to catch up on when you do go back.
I do have a lot to catch up on when I get back.
And Tanya, I know you have, and your teammates say you have an incredible attention to detail. You're very loyal. Yes. You're an incredible team player. What do you enjoy most about the work that you do? You've been doing it for 10 years.
I love hanging out with my coworkers. If I have nothing to do, I hang out, give them a hard time sometimes, make them laugh, and jokes.
You are the jokester, huh?
Yeah.
So let's go back to what we talked about, which is the importance of fair wages. What does it mean to you to be able to get a fair wage and have independence? What does it allow you to do?
I enjoy the wages now. I did not enjoy the wages back then in the era of shelter workshops.
So you enjoy getting a wage. Tanya, what do you enjoy? I heard that you save up your pay packet for things.
Yes, I like to go on vacation, but this year I am going on a Disney cruise in October.
Are you a little bit excited about that?
More excited.
So fair wages means independence for you both.
Yes,
right?
It does. The money that I save is for a vacation such as this one.
And you also pay for your rent.
And in addition, I pay the rent. I pay the bills, gas, electric, the occasional DWP bill, the T-Mobile bill.
Oh, so you're paying for your mobile bill too?
Yeah.
The internet. So you are able to be independent?
Yes, I'm able to be independent.
And what would you say to other employers that are looking to hire disabled talent?
Like telling them and showing them what we do and make them excited. And
so you think other employers should also bring on folks at a supported employment program?
Yes.
What about you, Eileen?
I like to see less of sheltered workshops, and I like to see more of supported employment. There is this bill, SB 39, for fair minimum wages. If we said farewell to the sheltered workshops, there'd be more people. The more supported living, the less sheltered workshops.
And that's a bill in California. There are, I believe, 16 states right now that are working to eliminate subminimum wage, but clearly a lot more to go. So it's great to hear that California is pursuing that. Well, what would you say to folks out there as we close up? What would you like to see in the future?
I'd like to see more of the AI stuff in every facet of work, like education, travel, data entry, all that stuff.
Well, it sounds like you're a bit of an innovator, Eileen. I love this. Tanya, how about you?
I want to see more people with disabilities and see what their experience are and things like that.
And I hear that you're training more people with disabilities
yes.
At Suddarth, right?
Yes.
Well, a huge thank you to both of you for coming. Thank you, Eileen, for traveling and flying up to Seattle. The sun is out for you.
Yeah, no rain, no snow like last night.
Well, fingers crossed. It may be changed by the time you get back out there.
Yeah.
We're in a dark studio, but thank you both for being here today.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Our supported employment toolkits have been updated to share our learnings and help every business benefit from the talent of disabled employees. Go to aka.ms/supportedemployment. And I will give a quick note to our partners in the disability community who have resources on how you can advocate for policy change at endsubminimumwage.org. Thank you again for being with us.
The exterior of the Oaks Specialist College. In the UK, only 4.8% of people with disabilities and only 9% of people with autism have access to any paid employment.
So the statistics around the numbers of disabled and neurodivergent people accessing paid employment remain alarmingly low. Yet 75% of people want to work.
Kieran Gellard.
Probably when I was a child, that made me different. Where everybody were able to read, I wasn't able to read. It was really hard for me.
Aman Abdullah.
When I was small, I was so quiet. But now, I can talk now.
BASE Training is meeting that challenge through the Microsoft Accessibility Nonprofit Tech Accelerator Program.
350 members across the UK, all with a shared mission, which is around ensuring that employment must be for all.
Laura Davis.
In 2023, we were introduced to the Microsoft Non-for-Profit Tech Accelerator Program. It has enabled us to access a world of tech in an affordable way. We built a partnership with the Oaks Specialist College, which is also one of our member organisations, who are doing some of the most leading work of embedding accessible tech into curriculum planning.
Elizabeth Wilkins.
The Oaks Specialist College opened in 2018. We cater for young adults aged between 18 and 25 with learning disabilities and difficulties, and we provide a bespoke curriculum encompassing maths and English and looking at the ways in which they can become more independent. So within Microsoft products, we use Immersive Reader, Microsoft Lens and Translator, but also the Picture Dictionary. And Dictate can be very useful for some of our young people who are not able to write as effectively as they would like to. We now work alongside BASE quite closely to train job coaches and those in supported employment, and we are now creating a series of videos for their training platform.
So actually, as people come in, they'll access those free training sessions. That training is going to consist of some Microsoft Accessibility Fundamentals training. We've been really impressed by some of those very simple solutions that Microsoft had developed that actually everybody can get behind. We know that diverse thinking leads to greater levels of productivity. We also know that organisations that better reflect the communities that they serve tend to be much more innovative, which is only going to help their profitability.
It's the thing you sign for a job.
Technology can make such a difference to young adults with learning disabilities, which help break down barriers.
I went through an interview, so I had to tell them I can't read or write. I told them, like, here's why I use my phone, because that have an app for me, would help me read or write.
At Maidstone Hospital, I worked at the receptionist, and I helped a man who couldn't speak no English, and he was from Russia. I told him to take his phone out, I used to translate, and I told him to translate it into Russian language.
We want to provide a space where actually everybody that wants to work should have the opportunity to do so.
You got the job, didn't you? They gave you that job.
Yeah.
Jenny's t-shirt reads, 2024 Ability Summit, Microsoft.
Around the world, and yet how much more needs to be done. When we talk about accessibility, though, we're not just talking about wage equity and digital. We are also talking about physical accessibility and our physical environments. Buildings. Back in 2017, we set a goal to transform our own campus, a complete campus refresh. I was in one of those old buildings, Building 8, many years ago, that was demolished to make room for this. And one of the big goals that was set, and it's in all the public blogs, was to redesign these buildings with a focus on inclusive design and accessible technology so everyone could be empowered in the workplace. Roll forward, 2024, some of those buildings are now open. And I'm really excited to introduce Alice Jolla, who is leading the charge.
Hi, I'm Alice Jolla, Chief Accounting Officer, Corporate Vice President, and some may say the mayor and superintendent of all the buildings on campus. At Microsoft, we're committed to creating accessible and inclusive physical spaces for our employees and our visitors, including people with disabilities. We want everybody to feel comfortable and empowered, and that's the way we design our spaces. We believe that putting money into workspaces creates an opportunity for us to achieve our full potential. Inclusion and success, hey, that benefits all of us. What's our guiding principles? Well, let me tell you about it. We start with inclusion, empowerment, and respect. Inclusion. We design for the people. We design our spaces with the diverse needs of our employees, our visitors, and everyone who steps through the door on one of our campuses. We use universal, accessible, and inclusive design principles to create spaces that are usable and comfortable for everyone. Empowerment. We leverage technology to enhance the accessibility and functionality of our physical environments using innovative solutions such as digital signage, wayfinding tools, and voice assistance at elevators. Respect. We're curious. Some may say we're nosy. We want to learn and we want to improve. We monitor and evaluate the accessibility and the inclusivity of our buildings day and night. And by the people, for the people, so we collect feedback from our employees and our visitors. We do surveys. Yes, I know you get a lot of surveys, but we do them too. We're committed to providing the products and experiences for the widest range of abilities. We are making our workspaces accessible by collaborating with employees with disabilities and industry experts. See, we like to think that we know it all, but we really don't. So we have to partner with others, including businesses that are owned by persons with a disability. And at Microsoft, we like to overachieve. So we go above and beyond what the rules say to make sure that our spaces are ready for everybody and we can be more innovative in these accessible environments. We use the best of technology. We use tactical wayfinding in our new buildings. We use Braille, high contrast text throughout our buildings. And we heard your feedback in the new building. We are adjusting some of that signage. We listen. Our lobbies offer a choice of heights in the reception welcome desk to provide an equitable experience for our visitors signing in. We like to say whether you're 6'6", you're vertically challenged, or you might be using a wheelchair, we want you to be able to sign in and not feel challenged. Our workspaces offer a variety of options to facilitate how employees work, collaborate, and even take a break in one of the nap rooms. At Microsoft, we're excited about the journey we're on, but like I always say, we've come a long way, but we still have a lot more to do. And we want to share with others. So we have created this accessibility handbook that we are launching today, the Microsoft Accessibility and Inclusion Handbook. Where can you find it? aka.ms WAC, Inclusive Workplace Handbook. Now, you're going to see a video with our employees on the new campus. I promise it's beautiful.
An aerial view of new and under construction Microsoft buildings. Sean Maryhugh.
When you thoughtfully include accessibility at the very beginning, it means that people in their careers are able to bring their best selves. The kick plate on this elevator makes it really easy for me to independently call it.
Elevator serving floor 2.
At Microsoft, we recognize the power of inclusion and the amazing contributions our employees with disabilities make at work. We believe that accessibility should be seamlessly built into every aspect of the environment and experience, ensuring that every employee feels welcome and empowered.
A woman using a mobility scooter.
Our own employees show you how this approach impacts their work experience.
Kathy Dixon.
I really love that this space was designed so that I can reach the things I need. I can plug in my laptop and I can join the meeting without asking others to help me.
Our aim is to design spaces that create positive experiences for all bodies and minds. We do this by keeping in mind our inclusive workplace design goals at each step of the design process, incorporating feedback from our employees with disabilities and learnings from accessibility experts.
Those of us who are
Mary Stevens,
who have unseen disabilities, can sometimes fall through the cracks. These focus rooms really help me a lot when I'm feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated in the workplace. So these focus rooms allow me to come in and control exactly how much stimulation I'm having, but I can also adjust the lighting too, which is something that I don't always think of.
A man with a white support cane uses an automated coffee machine. Saqib Sheikh.
Select your beverage.
Sometimes it's just the small things that give you independence, whether that's braille labels on stuff, or the talking coffee machine, or even the human assistants we have all around the building.
Our accessible solutions go above and beyond the minimum design requirements set by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Kevin Wolf signing.
This feature is so cool to use. I don't need to call to reserve a shuttle or go to reception. The whole system is ready to use right in front of me. So if I want to call a shuttle to go to a different building for another meeting, I'm good to go.
At Microsoft, when our buildings and facilities support a diverse population, their inclusion and success benefits all of us. We're still learning ourselves, but we are committed to engaging with the community along this journey.
To learn more, visit aka.ms/Inclusive Workplace Handbook. Microsoft.
Thank you for joining us for the Ability Summit and for working with us to create more accessible experiences for everybody.
And that is our show. Jenny, what a day. Oh,
Jenny's wearing a t-shirt that reads ability in both English and sign language.
It's been wonderful. I'm at the giggle stage. That does happen. It's been end of the day, absolutely. It has been such an honor to co-host with you. It really has. And finally, after 8 years of you literally being over there, you were on this side of the camera.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, it is fun to be on this side. It's a little scary, but we had a blast.
It is a little scary. I have to say that this gang of amazing humans here are incredible, not scary at all. It's the cameras that are scary. And we're so grateful. In fact, I want to say a huge, huge thank you to over 70 presenters and every single human that's helped to make this happen behind the scenes. It literally could not be possible. And when you have a team that thinks as deeply as this one about not just the content and the nerdery that we put out there, but also how we put it out there, that's really the magic and where it comes from. But this is just the beginning. Today we've talked about how AI makes innovations possible. It's now time for you to go do stuff. Go and find problems, issues that need resolving, find and have the tough conversations, which we will be doing as we leave here today. There's so much work to be done. This is one step further. This is one, hopefully, catalyst. Now that we got you back, I have to mention Dad again. I know I need a mom team. The Dad is the Disability Answer Desk. You can find that at aka.ms/dad. You can deep dive to any and all of this at microsoft.com/accessibility. And remember, if you're not in our call gang today, there's a chance that you will be in your life, and that's not a bad thing. We will welcome you with open arms, and Designing for Disability empowers everyone.
Well, thank you for having me, Jenny. This was a blast. You all know how to find us. #Ability Summit. Let us know how we've been doing and what you want to see next. So friends, everyone, thank you for all of you who took the time to participate in our 14th Annual Ability Summit. We hope you leave feeling good, invigorated, empowered, go out there and build a more inclusive future. So until next time, I'm Jessica Rafuse.
And I'm Jenny Leigh Flurry. Have a great day.
Jenny and Jessica hug on stage.
In animation, colorful, undulating bands in various textures frame the words, "Thank you for participating. There's more to explore." Discover other content experiences in the top navigation bar.